Welcome to Weapons of Mass Destruction Podcast, episode 207, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/207. You can get the audio only on any podcast catcher, and you can get the video on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and X. David, how was my strumming?
It was not
guitar?
functional, but god damn it, the heart was there. So I'll give you a 6.5 out of 10. How about that?
Hey, I got more points than the Australian breakdancer, so I'm pretty proud of that.
And you didn't even have to screw anybody over to do it.
I know, right?
Or gain like some fake fucking degree to get there.
Exactly. So this week we're talking about the FBI going absolutely rogue in terms of the investigation into the Trump shooting a little over a month
this is
ago.
The first time, right?
You know,
the first time.
On the podcast that is a habitual giver of tomorrow's news today, I believe at the very end of the segment of the episode that we talked about the whole timeline and the shooting and all of that kind of stuff, we predicted for you, not that this was really going on much of a limb, that don't worry, folks, the FBI's got this covered. They will get right to the bottom of this post haste. And they got right to the bottom of something, how they were going to, cover it up and completely torpedo the investigation. But yeah, that's just.
By the way, how they do on that Russian investigation of Trump being a Manchurian candidate for him? They paid a lot of money by somebody.
Not well, if I recall.
Certain charity or foundation to find out that he was definitely. But at least, hey, they nailed the computer, Hunter Biden's laptop. They nailed that for being Russian disinformation. So after that, and they definitely weren't involved in January 6th either, and they definitely weren't implicated. So you know what? They're just batting 1,000 over the past couple of years. So, if they fuck this one up, they've got a couple of coming to it.
Listen, everybody knows that if you want something done wrong, get the FBI on it. Okay? Because if they're not completely incompetent retards, they are evil, power-grabbing, unelected bureaucratic pieces of shit who will do whatever it takes to expand their budgets, maintain their power, and, give a neck massage to whoever is doing the budget expanding and power granting. But what we're talking about this week is we're talking about a recent events. Now, I do want to preface this all so that we're not banned by YouTube for fake news. Although this, when we get accused of disseminating fake news, give it about 2 or 3 weeks and it turns out to be true.
Still get a ban though, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, still get a ban. This is all allegedly. Okay? You hear me, YouTube? Allegedly. I am just reporting, and YouTube, just so you know, we're not even going to go through this whole thing, hook, line, and sinker, but I just want YouTube to see. Okay? We're talking about an article from Newsweek. Okay? Newsweek. Okay?
A viable media outlet
that's
not existed for decades.
Right? It's not the Ron Paul Liberty Report. It's not any of those other news sources that are infinitely more reputable and honest than any of you slapdicks.
Hey,
but
don't insult
it is from Newsweek. Oh yeah, sorry. I shouldn't do the insulting when I'm trying to
wait until afterwards, then insult them when they ban us.
So okay, a Newsweek article. Okay, so I'm just throwing that out there. All right, so
it'll matter. They'll take that into account, I'm sure.
Now that that's here, or now that that's clear, what we're talking about is sitting U.S. Congressman Clay Higgins, Representative Clay Higgins, has basically been tasked with heading up the Congress's investigation into the July 13th attempted assassination on Donald Trump. And the reason why it's Clay Higgins in particular is going to, make more sense as we go throughout the story that we're talking about today, is Higgins was a former police captain. So he has a bit of experience, a bit of knowledge. I didn't see in here where it said, how many years, he operated in, with that kind of title or how much experience he had on investigations in particular. But let's just say he's not a bartender from New York on this particular subject matter.
I don't know why you'd even pick that profession, but
Just random. It just came.
Just a thought. Just one of the thoughts.
So, yeah, listen. Yes, should lawyers be opining on economics, in general in Congress? Probably not. Right? Should doctors be opining on, how much money we should give to the military? Probably not. But when we're talking about a law enforcement and investigation type situation, it's rather sort of, I guess, in the wheelhouse of somebody who was a former police captain. That's all I'll say about that as far as Representative Higgins' credibility.
Not good enough, Dane.
And what happened is on August 5th, I guess now it's been about a little over 10 days ago. On August 5th, Higgins went to Butler, Pennsylvania, and he was going to begin the process of Congress's independent investigation into what happened on July 13th. And as part of that, he asked to see the body of Thomas Matthew Crooks, the shooter, alleged shooter. But he found out when he made that request that there was no body to examine. Why? Because the body had been released back to the Crooks family 10 days after the shooting. So somewhere on or about July 23rd. And the body had been promptly cremated. So no more body forever and for always. Nobody will ever be able to examine the body of Matthew Thomas Crooks. Now,
why would you need that, Dane? You're being so sticky. You're being so slopey right now. You're not being realistic, Dane. Why would we ever have to look at that person's body ever again?
Well, that is coming a little bit later. Just a couple more background facts beforehand. So the reason why this is
Dane, did you know he is a Republican, by the way? He's a registered Republican.
Okay. Oh, you're talking about Crooks? Yeah. So the reason why this
else would I be talking about?
Oh, I thought you meant Representative
I'm kidding.
Higgins.
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
So anyway, this coming out on August 5th, and why is it a problem? All of that kind of stuff. Well, what Higgins alleges, and again, this is the FBI. I want to say, YouTube, the FBI does disagree with Higgins's preliminary thoughts on the investigation. But what Higgins says is that when he asked for the body, this came as a shock to everybody, including local law enforcement. He said the county coroner, local law enforcement, and the local sheriff all had no idea that the body had been released back to the family and cremated. He said that, yes, the Butler
County... You mean
all
the same people that knew that there was a shooter 10 minutes before Trump went on stage? All those people knew?
Yeah. But
basically everybody
don't know
else...
what happened to the body. Yeah.
Okay.
According to Higgins, he said, quote, the Butler County coroner technically had legal authority over the body, but I spoke with the coroner, said Higgins, and he would never have released Crooks's body to the family for cremation or burial without specific permission from the FBI. And again, in this whole he said thing between him and the FBI...
Dane, are you assuming gender again?
Actually, I should assume that the FBI is she. In light of recent events, is in this whole he said, she said between him and the FBI, just use your critical thinking hat, Mimis, for a second. Does it make sense in an assassination attempt on a former president and somebody actively running to be president again for the local county coroner to just make the unilateral decision without any input from federal authorities that he's going to release the body to the family to be cremated? It doesn't sound plausible, right? So when he says that the coroner told him, I would have never released the body if the FBI didn't explicitly give me the go-ahead that it was okay, in that he said, she said, who you going to believe?
Well, who has more to lose?
Yeah, like Higgins has nothing to lose, correct.
Right. So, and then again, I don't know if you're keeping count. God knows it's hard to nowadays. But suffice to say, the day of, there were multiple people pointing out the shooter. He was spotted with a fucking, what is it, a distance fighter? What is it called?
Rangefinder.
Thank you. He pointed a gun at a cop that confronted him. The Secret Service admitted that they knew that there was a situation 10 minutes before Trump went on to stage. Again, I'm just rehashing, just all these coinky-dinks just happening.
Yeah, keep a running list at home of all the coincidences that you notice.
Again, again, where was I? They knew about it 10 minutes before. The snipers were seen getting a target on the person that shot at presidential candidate Trump. What, a minute before he took 8 shots?
2 or 3 minutes, something like that.
And then they came out and said that we had no idea. We had no target. We didn't even see any movement on the building before he took the shots. And then a video comes out 5 minutes after they said that, with him flipping over like a fucking fish out of water on top of the goddamn slopey. Oh, by the way, the Secret Service didn't cover that particular
Well, they didn't
roof
have
because
a
it was
station on that roof. It was too
slopey. Too slopey for any kind of coverage. There's no human alive other than a goddamn mountain goat that would be able to stand on that roof.
And Thomas,
let alone get off a steady shot. But anyway, those being said, go ahead.
I was just going to say, by the way, about that shot,
it was an iron sight shot, which makes it a little bit better. It was a little bit better.
It was an iron sight shot, which, according to the reports, he was confronted by a police officer. He turned and points at the police officer. And then you got to think, in that moment, your adrenaline is through the roof, right? You've just pointed at a police officer. You already know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. He turns back around from pointing at that police officer, and with iron sights, almost hits a guy in the head at what did we say it was? 400 feet? Something like that?
No, 390 yards. So.
Oh, well, way more than 400 feet. A long way. And that's impressive. I mean, I don't care who you are. I am impressed at that shot, the accuracy of that shot.
Yeah, we were hating on his shot a long time ago, but that's when we thought he had a scope, or at least a red dot.
Well, this is all assuming that was his shot.
Are you suggesting, Dane?
I'm only saying that's what we are assuming. Because as Representative Higgins is telling you, there are portions of this investigation which are now resigned to assumption for the rest of eternity.
Well, here's the thing.
And that has been made so by the FBI.
Here's the thing, Dane. What they'll do is they'll call this a conspiracy theory.
Of course.
But what this is only a practice in is logic. If you are not completely forthright and upfront, open and honest with your investigation at all points, then all I can think of is that you're either inept or you're trying to hide the truth. And either way, I have to start looking for the truth myself. So I have to start going back over the fucking circumstances. And when you start adding all these things up, and what's that famous phrase that you have? Once is an accident, twice is a trend,
3 times is a habit.
So if it happens 3 times, and it happens 3 times within the span of 20 minutes, and then 8 shots get off, I'm going to go ahead and add each one of those bullets onto the 3 times. And then his brains get splattered all over that very slopey roof that no one could get on. How do they recover his body, by the way? If it was such a dangerous roof, how did they get up there?
Send up the mountain goats. You already cracked the code on that one.
Damn it. Now I'm a conspiracy theorist. Fuck.
Listen, local police have
Hillary's a lizard.
Local police have their canine units, and then everybody knows the Secret Service has their mountain goat unit.
Of course.
For slopey roofs.
Damn it. I knew that. Walked right into that trap. I do it every time.
Yeah, you do.
Goddamn slopey roofs. So all I'm saying is, to question is human. To accept is moronic. That's all I'm saying at this point.
Yeah. When the source that you are told to accept is from government or any of their
that have a huge fucking huge invested interest in whether or not this is totally like the JFK thing. They said they were going to redact that, didn't they? They said that it was FOIA. They're going to release it all to the public. Do we still not?
Again, that was Trump said he was going to do that, and then he never did it. So again, not to piss off the MAGA people, but come get your boy, because he keeps saying he's going to do X, Y, and Z, and it just magically happens not to happen. And again, I know that you can make up excuse after excuse. Somebody got in his ear, somebody threatened him, somebody this, somebody that. But I dare say they've gone about as far as they're going to go. Well, not, I mean, they might keep trying. They've gone pretty far if they've taken a shot at the guy. I think if there was any pretense about playing nice with these, deep state lizard people to, try to get in and play 4D chess with them and then eventually, kick them out when they least see it coming, I'd say that time has passed. I'd say once they start shooting at you, it's full frontal assault now. It's a full court press.
If you accept more mistakes from your political leadership than you do your NFL football team on Sunday, you're fucking up. I would have hit that pass. Why the fuck didn't Rodgers see that wide open guy streaking down the middle? Well, maybe because there's a 395-pound fucking psychopath that was trying to take his head off. Bullshit. I'd have hit that. But no, the FBI knows what they're doing. They know. They're keeping us safe.
Yeah. Priorities. They matter. So anyway.
Put on a t-shirt.
Higgins says that, by the way, in amongst this entire thing is by the time that he went there on August 5th to even make the request to examine Crooks's body, at that time, the autopsy report from the coroner was already a week late. I haven't seen any reports that it has come out since then. Maybe it has, but, again, we're stacking coincidences here. It's already late, whatever.
We're not saying anything. We're just adding them up. That's all we're doing.
To what David was, kind of getting me to earlier, we're at that point now. So what is the problem with Higgins not being able to examine Crooks's body? Well, a big problem. It is the fact that now and forever, for all time, there can never be an independent confirmation or refutation of whatever happens to be in that coroner's report once it does come out. So basically, if the coroner says, I examined the body, I saw X and Y together means that the conclusion is Z. If you have a body to examine, you can have third party, you can have second coroners, you can have all sorts of other independent investigators that can look at the same body and say, the original coroner's conclusion was correct, and here's why. It was incorrect, and here's why. Here's some other piece of information we need to make that conclusion. All sorts of, that's scientific disagreement, right? That science is supposed to be. You have a bunch of theories, you have a bunch of different conclusions, you let them compete, and the truth finds its way to the top. That can never happen as far as the examination of Crooks's body because it's been released and cremated. That's a big problem. And it's an especially big problem from a separation of powers point of view, because the lateral sort of separation of powers between the judicial, executive, and legislative branch is that they're supposed to check and balance each other. Remember your schoolhouse rock lessons? Well, the FBI is an executive agency. So you have an executive agency examining.
I like it better. Stick with it.
We're sticking with it. Examining the screw-ups of another executive branch agency, the Secret Service, about the attempted assassination of a political opponent of the current sitting executive, and the legislative branch that wants to do its own independent investigation to see, get to the bottom of it and see what's going on here, has now completely been pushed out of the investigation phase and not allowed to question the conclusions of whatever flow out of those unelected bureaucratic executive agencies, the FBI, the Secret Service, etc. And again, I repeat myself, all of those executive agencies are operating under the authority of the current sitting president, which is the political opponent of the guy who was shot at.
And in case you forgot,
that's a problem.
Multiple weeks leading up to that, SCOTUS, otherwise known as the Supreme Court, Anyway, you kept saying that for like multiple episodes. I was like, what the fuck? I'm just going to go with it. I don't know what he's actually talking about. Anyway, so they just ruled that, what was it? The president is above reproach from law when he's making presidential mandates. Essentially. Roughly. Yeah. And for the next 2 weeks, all you heard from the left was, we can't let Trump get in because he's going to just issue SEAL Team 6 orders that they can't deny. And he's just going to start assassinating his political rivals. 2 weeks after, there was an assassination attempt, but it wasn't ordered by Trump. And the people that were in charge of taking care of Trump were under the orders of President Biden, or at least under the
or whoever's controlling him. Yeah,
sure. Or,
his office.
Well, yeah. And all of a sudden, those same people that were squawking about him doing something that they're doing all the time, their silence was deafening for 2 weeks. And then after the 2 weeks, they came out and started doing fuck shit like Joy Reid, our favorite, saying that we don't even think it was a bullet that hit him. It might have been glass. It's like,
what difference does that fucking make?
That's like saying she didn't actually have cancer. She just took chemo to get attention. Like, what the fuck are you actually saying? I thought this was coming from the side that doesn't victim blame or shame. Like, what are you talking about? We stand by our principles until the other person doesn't align with us, and then we're carte blanche. We'll just kill them. Like,
or I mean, even if you weren't being a complete hypocrite, you're saying something that doesn't matter. The key fact of July 13th is that he was shot at. Period. That a weapon was aimed at his head and the trigger was pulled. It doesn't matter if a bullet hit him, a piece of glass, a blade of grass, a stiff wind.
Dodgeball.
The point is that a bullet was allowed to be fired at a former president and current candidate for president, the leader of the major opposition party to the president and party in power. So I don't care what the fuck he got hit with. Something was shot in his general direction under the nose of executive agencies run by his political opponent. That's a problem. It does not matter what. So like, again, even just pointing that out to say, oh, he wasn't actually hit by a bullet, he was hit by something. Who fucking cares? Like, I'll guarantee you right now, if not even, to something like a president or whatever, but if you try to, just walk on a plane with a gun in a lockbox that you can't even open, you don't have the key for, the fact that you have a gun on a plane is going to get you arrested.
This brought to you by the same people.
The FAA.
that brought to you silence is violence.
Yeah.
Not saying anything is violence. They know violence is that. And they also said dead naming or misgendering is hate speech. So they know what violence is and they know what hate is. But they don't know what hate-filled violence meant for death looks like, because it doesn't seem like they're ever really a part of it or really know what it looks like.
Yeah, well, that's because, David, they have the moral high ground, so they're not capable of violence.
They're higher than that.
It's the exact same thing that they did with racism, right? They said only white people can be racist because racist is not simply, I see you of a different race that I think is lower than me, therefore I think all of these, negative things about you.
Also, black people aren't smart enough to get voter IDs.
The old classic textbook definition of racism, real racism. And now they've turned it into, well, racism is all of that plus power. So
racism is disagreeing with me.
Minorities are incapable of racism because they don't have the power. Well, in a very real sense about their whole violence and all of that kind of stuff is violence is only violence, or political violence in particular is only political violence when it's in the pursuit of something that they don't like, which is, nominally the nuclear family, Christianity, a balanced budget, things like that, really
I thought you were gonna say
radical
diet.
things. Diet, exercise.
I thought you were gonna say a balanced diet, but it still fits.
If you
That's the same side that says I'm fat and I'm fabulous. Like, no, you're fat and annoying, and you're gonna die earlier because you're not healthy. Anyway,
so literally bullets shot at a guy who is, quote, literally Hitler as far as they're concerned isn't actual violence, right? It's the whole would you go back in time and kill baby Hitler type situation. It's all justifiable as long as you can make the person that you're shooting at a big enough monster.
So, I'm not, well, that's that. What a fucking Jordan Peterson put it so beautifully. And of course he did. And of course I can't remember how he put it, but it's that old, they're the classic, like, person that makes the problem for themselves and then plays the victim. Like, that's classic liberalism. Like, well, they can't find their way out of that mess. We have to help them out. Well, how are you going to help them out? We're going to take more funds from everyone and not help them at all. And we're going to make more government bodies that we pay all of our friends to be populate them with all of our friends. We're going to pay them 6-figure salaries to make sure that this problem is never solved, so that next year I don't have to think of new problems to solve. Budget. I can just bring up the same shit that we still need to solve, and I'll say I'm doing a great job on it, and you need to write that I'm doing a great job on it, right, Mr. Biden? Anyway.
Here's the proof I'm doing a great job. I made this whole agency that hasn't fixed it yet.
Look at it. I'm paying them thousands of dollars a year, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I'm sure they'll crack the case anytime now.
And now this agency tasked explicitly with fixing this one thing, because it hasn't fixed that thing, that means that we haven't given that agency enough money, so we need to give them more money. Don't you see?
Because we've incentivized them, because the incentive of their job is to fix the thing that would put them out of the job. So of course they're going to put themselves out of a job by fixing the problem, right?
Makes sense to me. Well, anyway,
that's open and shut case, Watson.
Before we get too much further afield, back to the Higgins,
the crux of the matter.
Discuss. Nice.
Thanks.
Discussion with the FBI is okay. So they let the body go, and we can't examine it. That's a bummer. That's a big hole in the investigation.
Darn it.
But is that all? There's other pieces to the investigation Congress can look into, Dane, right? Hold your horses on that. Because in addition to the release of the body, Higgins lambasted the FBI for releasing the crime scene 3 days after the events. So by July 16th, or at the latest 17th, the crime scene was already released. So again, we have another situation where the FBI is well aware that at some point, Congress will want to do its own investigation. And notwithstanding that knowledge, the FBI releases the crime scene 3 days after. And they say, well, don't worry, Congress, that doesn't really matter, because we, the FBI, collected all the evidence, and you can just look at our evidence and our conclusions without independently verifying any of them. Again, this is the same FBI that we talked about long ago on this
brought
very
to you by
podcast,
the same people
that got in trouble for fudging the evidence to get faulty conviction in federal cases to something. I think they had something like a 90% conviction rate on bad DNA evidence that they just made up. Again, that FBI. So again, body released the crime scene. Is that it, Dane? Did they do anything else? Yes.
What?
They did.
Dane, you're being such a stickler. Give them a break. They're working so hard to kill the president that they just got to clean it up. They're doing their best job to find out who tried to kill him.
They did at least one other thing that Higgins pointed out, is that they cleaned up all biological evidence at the scene as well, which according to Higgins, that is, quote, unheard of. He also said, quote, cops don't do that ever.
Hey, you guys mind if I take a piss on this blood stain over here real quick? I gotta go. My back teeth are floating.
So again, don't take it from us. YouTube, We didn't make this up out of whole cloth. Read the
And we're
Newsweek article. It'll be down in the show notes page. So YouTube, you can take a look at the article from Newsweek before you decide to give us another ban or strike. But that's where we are. We have a sitting representative, an actual spokesman for the people, right? In this alleged democracy of, by, and for the people, which is so sacred. Somebody that actually was put before the people, at least in his district, and said, do you want this guy to represent your interests? And the people in his district said yes. That guy versus an unelected, forever bureaucratic branch of the executive agency tasked with investigating themselves and their, comrades in terms of the Secret Service that never appeared on any ballot and no American citizen ever had the ability to vote on and don't have the ability to fire. You have he said, she said between those two. Now, again, we would suggest to you that based on how much the FBI and the Secret Service has to lose in this situation versus what Representative Higgins and the congressional investigation has to lose, that the balance of weight, if you're trying to do a 50-50 who gets the feather on their side of the scale in terms of who has less to lose, it would obviously be Higgins. He has more incentive to tell the truth because he's, at least nominally not involved in this whole situation.
Dane, shut the fuck up. At least they nailed the JFK investigation.
And everyone after that. And the MLK investigation.
And Ultra, I know that was
Hunter
the CIA,
Biden laptop.
but they nailed that. They've got, and then obviously Trump was a Russian spy. He was born in Russia. Nobody knew that. That's why he was such a birther. That's because he was guilty of it. So he chose to choose Obama as a birther.
So, that's where we're at, folks. That is the Banana Republic kangaroo court we are currently living under.
You know what this makes me sad about, Dane?
Everything.
Most things, yes.
The fact that we have small children and that they're, subjected to these petty tyrants for the foreseeable future.
Right. Yeah. But I just, again, I said it on, what was it? The 205, I believe. Then the same side, again, that's screaming, we have to protect democracy at all costs, literally is trying to subvert it at all costs. Like saying that Donald J. Trump is the greatest threat to our democracy when they put up their candidate that until Biden stepped down was the lowest ranked VP at I think her approval rating was 28% at the time. They were hiding her just as much as they were trying to hide the fact that he didn't just have a stutter, he didn't have a brain. Anybody that's been paying attention to this shit is now being told by the educated left that this is the best candidate that we might have ever had for presidency. And the only attributes that they offer for that is the fact that she's black and a woman. Brought to you by the same side that keeps saying that we need to end racism and we need to fight for equal rights and not pay them on the scale of their sexuality. I don't know where to go from here. It's like you're writing your own double standards and you're incapable. And also brought to you by the side that cancels us or gets us kicked off of YouTube because we say truths, things that eventually come out to be true. And they say that we're spreading dis, or malinformation. But I'm pretty sure I can still pull up an MSNBC clip of Rachel Maddow saying, you don't get it, you don't spread it. Totally safe and effective. I can pull up clips of CNN saying that Kamala Harris is the goddamn border czar when she had never been to the border the entire fucking 3 years she had been a vice president, or 2 years at the time, whatever it was. You're playing a game with somebody that doesn't, it's like a 2-year-old. They just keep reinventing the rules as they go along. And the only thing you can do is not play their game anymore. And then when you don't play their game anymore, they're going to throw a hissy fit. Well, I'm sorry. You've proven that you aren't intellectual enough or intelligent. Well, not intellectual enough. You aren't adult enough. You aren't American enough to play the game fair. So until you decide to act like an adult and you want to be a part of this country, which I think we just they don't say the Pledge of Allegiance in schools anymore down here. I think we just voted on that. So the same side that brings you that we don't want to say the American national anthem the Pledge of Allegiance anymore in school, that just shits on this country, loves it, but's trying to subvert democracy to save it. What? You can't even define what a woman is. And you think the best part about your presidential candidate is that she's a woman. Make that make sense. For me, please. If you do it, maybe I'll vote for her. I don't know. I won't. But, whatever.
I always give them hope, David. Always give them hope.
I just got to incentivize them because maybe they're not properly motivated enough to make sense. And we have to do that now.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. I mean, I really just hope that, we get through the rest of this election cycle without anything like that happening again. Although this past week, we found out that it might not be that far off. Not going to go into a big detailed discussion about this, but within a month of this happening, we have another report of Trump, this time at an indoor event. Thank God. And the Secret Service had stationed, people of the team at,
anything that looked slightly slopey
at various points to make sure that it was secure. And come to find out, the agent that's tasked with, doing the sweep at the last second to make sure that everybody's in their station and everything is in order, goes by and there's a completely absent post. Somebody had abandoned their post.
It was a man. He had to take a pee, right?
Yeah. Where do they find her at?
Oh, boy.
She's off in a room that's designated for official use only, like official as in if they need to rush Trump out of there and they need a room that's secure to, regroup and get him out of there safe. Yeah, she's in that room with a couple family members, which, by the way, Secret Service is not allowed to bring family members when they're on detail. She's in that room with a couple family members breastfeeding her infant child. Didn't tell anybody. Didn't get on her little fancy little Secret Service mic they always have in their ear and say, hey, by the way, team, my spot, spot C7, whatever the hell they had it codenamed, I'm going to leave it for 20 minutes. I'm going to go breastfeed my baby. No, didn't mention anything to anybody. Just left her post.
How are they still allowed to be on Secret Service anymore then? After the Holy Folds couldn't put her fucking her gun back in her holster after she hid behind the president using him as the human shield when she's supposed to be the human shield. After she took cover behind the president.
To her, Trump is a large guy. I mean, he's tall and wide. So he would make a good human shield.
She was wide. She would have covered his waist, at least. His femoral artery, at least. But so the same people that brought you Chunky McChunkerton that can't reholster her weapon and hides behind the president for her own safety brings you a breastfeeding Secret Service member. Where's the maternity
just any
leave?
Breastfeeding Secret Service member? Because, by the way,
with a family,
as fathers of small children, I don't know about David's yet, but as a father of a formerly small children, she's getting too big too fast now. Don't make me cry. Big fan of breastfeeding.
Don't have a heart.
Okay, breastfeeding is great. You should do it for all your kids, and that's all great and good. Probably not when you're a Secret Service agent and you're on detail and you're assigned a post.
Maybe pump for that one. Hand that off to the husband.
Yeah, that might be the one time where, you've been pumping throughout the weeks and you've been, putting bags in freezers and you have some reserves. That might be a time to use a reserve. Yeah.
But no, they can do everything that a man can do.
So anyway, I say all of that to just go back to my original point. I hope we get through the rest of this election cycle without incident. I'm not inspired with a ton of confidence at this point. But nobody wants a civil war. Nobody with an IQ above a residential speed limit wants that. But it looks like one side is hell-bent on getting us there as fast as possible. And that concerns me. because it's usually the people that aren't super well thought out that act rashly. They're the ones that drag a whole bunch of other people into really, really bad things that none of them wanted in the first place. I just hope we don't go there.
Wasn't this, again, brought to you by the same people that said if Trump gets a hold of the nuclear football, we'll have nuclear holocaust, i.e. World War III. When Trump resigned from office, did he start any new wars?
No.
Okay. Did he put things in place to pull us out of the 20-year war that we didn't seem like we were ever going to get out of? And did we eventually get out of that?
There was supposed to be a timetable for Afghanistan.
Okay. So that was about 6 months into Biden's presidency, and by God, he nailed that extraction. So after he nailed pulling out of Afghanistan, after he fucking nailed it, over the next 3.5 years, what did he follow up with? We have conflict with one of our biggest adversaries in the Ukraine that we're funding and keep saying that we're not doing anything. Oh, by the way, again, on the tomorrow's news today of weapons of mass destruction. Hey, remember that episode where we talked about the Nord Stream pipeline?
Yeah,
and how they said that
Russia,
and how they said Putin's just a crazy person, and he blew up his own pipeline to get favor amongst the globe, despite the fact that it would actually benefit us exceptionally if he did that. Now come to find out that we definitely did it, or option B, there was a drunk millionaire on a boat that dropped a wine bottle off of it, and that's what blew it up.
Yeah. If you believe the Five Eyes. Yeah. But yes, what David's referring to as the German government has issued a warrant for the arrest of a Ukrainian Ukrainian dive instructor who was living in Poland at the time and allegedly basically went out on a boat with some of his buddies and planted the explosives that blew up Nord Stream.
And unless you forget, the media was telling you that not even SEAL Team 6 could make it down to those depths. So you're telling me that a dive instructor could get down there when our nation's finest can't? Gotcha. And just to go back to my tally, how many conflicts are we in now? We're in one with Russia, a proxy war with Russia. We have Israel and Iran. Well, excuse me, Hamas, but Iran. And then we're pissing off China with Taiwan. And we just intercepted China bombers and Russian bombers a couple of weeks ago off our Alaskan coast. And we just had a nuclear submarine that belongs to Russia off our coast down here in Florida. Which one of them is causing World War III again?
Seems to be it's already going. It's just a bit of a slow burn. Anyway, I mean, yeah. That's all I got. David, do we have anything happy to leave the memes with?
Manchester United is top of the league right now. As we record, as it stands right now, we are top of the league. If it ended today, we'd be champions. Call it. After one game, call it. Don't let anybody else play.
First time since when?
Hey, shut up.
I legitimately
we could have had it in
13
or 12 or 13, but Aguero scored in the fucking... I don't want to talk about it. I don't talk about it. We haven't won it in a while. Just suffice it.
You mean to tell me United hasn't won the league in the entire time that I've lived in South Florida? I moved down here in 2011.
Hey, Dane, we play in a real league with actual teams, not your little fake league that only has 1 or 2 teams.
Listen, I'm not saying they should have won 10 since I've been here. I'm saying not even one time.
Well, talk to Man City and the 115 who've been cheating with that. Oh, I'm sorry. Saudi Arabian money? Does that sound familiar? Do you fly Emirates along with...
Memes, let's not get David going here.
I'm all fluttered and greased up and ready to go.
It's supposed to be a happy occasion.
It's supposed to be a happy occasion. Yeah, super happy talking about the FBI trying to kill another president.
No.
Excuse me.
Happy at the end.
Excuse me.
We're injecting a bit of happiness. Anyway.
I'll inject some happiness in you. Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Not you sicko. That'd be wrong on multiple levels. Well, family and you're a dude.
Yeah, it's gay. Anyway.
Yes, it is. That would exactly be it. Go ahead, Dane. Where can they find this episode 207 before we go down further on this treacherous path?
You can find this episode at wmdpodcast.com/207. They can get the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Beam Destruction. They can find the video right here, wherever they're watching it, on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and X. They can link up with us on our other socials, Twitter, Instagram, X, Instagram, TikTok, private members only Facebook page at $5 a month or more of support. They can go to wmdpodcast.com, the support our work tab, to look at the other ways to support us. But other than that, they can click down below this video. They can donate Bitcoin, buy from our merch store, and, just do the old-fashioned free stuff. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends and family about us. Jump in those comment sections. Help us with that algo food. But I did notice, checking the other day, 202 subscribers here on YouTube. We cracked the 200 mark. 300, we got you in our sights. So do your worst, memes.
Consistent pressure. Let's get
that network effect going. Now that we have 200 plus of you telling your friends and family about us, just one of being successful with one family member, we're at 400. And you do that again and we're at 800. And then, the math keeps mathing, and then eventually it's just like exponential.
And eventually they're all corporation.
Then we're like Mr. Beast, except I can assure you that neither David nor I will ever be transgender. And, we're not going to
speak for yourself. Maybe I'll play the back nine as something different. I don't know.
Change your avatar.
I'm my own creative character. Maybe I'll play the second half evil. I don't know.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is you can help the sane space grow and be completely guilt-free about it, because David and I aren't these sort of new age, new wave degenerates. We're the old-fashioned degenerates. The ones that, say things that you're not supposed to say. You don't have polite conversation at parties.
We're the ones we were the ones you gotta talk about your friends to before they walk into the door.
We make off-color jokes every now and then.
But
sometimes we drink too much and we yell at the TV when our team's
don't fall
losing.
asleep around him.
that kind of thing. So, you can rest easy knowing that we're that kind of
classic degenerate uncle behavior. That's how I'll describe it. Classic degenerate uncle. We don't mean you any harm, and in most likelihood, you'd probably like us most of the time. Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. Exactly.
Which is all I can really hope for in this world anyway. But with all that being said, are you done with your...
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think, David, is it next week? No, next week you're here.
Next week I'm here, and then the week after I will be abroad.
So basically what we're telling you...
And again, going back to what we were just saying, I don't mean abroad as in I'm going to put lace on and dress up real pretty. I mean, I'll be outward. Around the world.
I thought you meant you were going to be in a broad. Well, see, another one of those off-color jokes.
We'll see how the night goes.
You see how the night goes.
Yeah, it's not going to rule anything out.
You want to support that kind of joke? I think you do. Tell your friends and family about us.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, what I was going to say to the memes is, as we learned from the last time David was away from the mic, he decides to take a week off and the whole world implodes. There's an assassination attempt.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy.
So up to next Friday, you're good. Up to episode 208,
don't make any plans after the 30th.
But after 208, hunker down. Get your, 3 to 6 months of rations. Stockpile your ammo. Go into your bunker, and then wait till David comes back for 210.
Start working on your CQC.
See if the world still works. So.
All right.
Anyway,
with
that's
all that being
said,
on the next episode of As the World Burns, but as always, guys, thanks for sticking along this long. Can I take that again?
You go for it.
Can we roll that back? Can we roll that back one more time?
World's your oyster, my friend.
Come on. Thanks for sticking around this long. If you have, you pieces of shit. Memes, we love you.
He doesn't mean that. Please still tell your friends and family about us.
Please, you pieces of shit. Anyway, until next week, guys, stay safe, but more importantly, stay free.